What to expect when getting sober from cocaine. When we get sober from cocaine, it's almost like, in my case, I thought it was going to be a lot of physical withdrawals. We always hear about heroin withdrawals a lot, and you hear about like fentanyl withdrawals, opiate withdrawals, and how these body aches and pains. So if you don't know anything about withdrawals, you hear so much about this that you think that, okay, this is going to be a physical withdrawal. What people don't realize though is when it comes to cocaine, that this is an all pure mental withdrawal. Withdrawing from cocaine, you might have a little bit of physical withdrawals coming out, maybe a little bit of exhaustion, appetite, maybe some sleep, and that might be for a day or 2 days, but that's all you're going to end up really feeling physically. There's nothing about cocaine that's actually going at you in the physical form. But the mental side of it is what we're not prepared for, and I think that's what makes it so difficult to get sober from cocaine or a stimulant drug like this. And again, I share for educational purposes only. I am a recovering cocaine alcoholic addict, and I am just sharing from lived experience and what it was like for me getting sober. So I got sober from cocaine. I didn't realize that my brain it became so dependent on dopamine from this substance. I had a really high tolerance to it. I was doing 1 to 2 8 balls of cocaine a day. I am ADHD. So that does affect it in a case also because I naturally don't create and harness dopamine like a normal brain does. So when it came to doing this drug, it was my big mood energy. It made me feel normal. So when I stopped doing cocaine, it wasn't massive anything physical and even mental. I didn't go into a lot of issues mentally until maybe about day 3 to 4. And day 3 and 4, my withdrawals became this voice in my head. I started having this internal dialogue of, you know what, maybe just try it again. Hey, Friday's coming up. You made it, 4 days, 5 days sober. Maybe this weekend we do it and then we go another 5 days. It was really weird, these conversations that I was having in my head of trying to convince myself to actually use this drug again. I didn't realize that that's actually what withdrawal cravings are like. Withdrawal cravings aren't this whole physical side of it. It's this whole conversation in your head constantly trying to convince you to use and how you can use and why you should use. And it almost glorifies anything that was negative happening in your life. And the part of the problem that we don't realize and why this happens is our brain has just shut down majority of the dopamine receptors in our brain. What I didn't realize is when you do cocaine, say you have 10 dopamine brain receptors, okay? So dopamine's the feel-good, big mood, reward center of your brain. So you have 10 of these receptors, for example. When you do cocaine and you hit that high and you're like, dude, this is amazing, your brain's actually freaking out. There's too much dopamine going through your brain and it's not doing a reuptake. And what a dopamine reuptake is when dopamine hits onto the neurotransmitters, it absorbs in and it recycles back through your system. So there is no reuptake. The dopamine is not reused. Your things are going haywire. Brain shuts down producing dopamine. And that's where the cocaine crash happens in about 15 minutes. Well, your brain has to start protecting itself. So your brain goes somewhat into protection mode. So it starts shutting down these dopamine receptors. And that's why when you're using that second and third and fourth time, it's never quite the same. And you start chasing this high that you're never going to get because your brain doesn't have the same amount of receptors available essentially to have this high happen. So your brain is constantly shutting down receptors. And after prolonged use, in my case, 2 years of heavy just on one, say I only had like 2 dopamine receptors left. This is fine when it's getting bombarded constantly with cocaine. Well, now all of a sudden cocaine's exited my system. I only have these 2. There's not anything in life that's going to bring me joy. I'm not going to have happiness in life all of a sudden. And this is just this emptiness feeling. It is a pit of despair feeling. There's anger, there's sadness, and it's a lot of emotions, and they're all very negative emotions. And it's a dark place to be. You find yourself just constantly trying to think of how do I get out of this, and why don't I just do some cocaine to try and pull myself out of this negative aspect. A lot of that has to happen with, you only have 2 dopamine receptors. It's going to take time for your brain to actually build dopamine receptors back up. And that's why it can take a long time to even feel happy again. Another part of this withdrawal process of what we don't realize, when we are getting sober, maybe you got bag and you'd go home, shut yourself in your room and you'd do a bag by yourself. Well, now all of a sudden you have all this time on your hand. You're not buying a bag, but you're still alone by yourself. And we don't know what to do. We feel very paralyzed because we are stuck and hyper-focused almost on this depression, on this conversations in our head telling us to get another bag, instead of trying to figure out what can I do to start supplementing something into my life, to start killing this boredom. Because if you look in the mirror as an addict, when you're first getting sober, you don't know who you see. You don't know what hobbies you like. You don't know what you like. If somebody asked me when I first got sober, what do I see? I'd be like, I see a coke addict, an alcoholic. Like, that's all I knew myself as. If somebody said, what do you do for fun? I'd be like, well, I like to have sex and I like to do drugs. I didn't know any hobbies. I didn't have anything actually in life that I enjoyed. So that's what made it really difficult. Like, you have to relearn life. And one of the things I would say that I found to help a lot that no one told me is, since you're on this mental battle, you're alone, you're in your head, you're in your thoughts, you're still alone, just like you were even when you were using, you're still alone. So now that you don't have a bag, what do? Form goals. And what are these goals? It's like, no, you're not going to conquer the world and all this stuff, but man, find 5 things for the week that you want to go do to at least give yourself something to look forward to. Set a goal and just push like you're working out and make that happen. So for me, like, I live in Boise. So if I was getting sober right now in Boise and I was the same addict I was in Westminster, Orange County when I was an addict, I would be like, okay, one day I'm going to go walk the Greenbelt. On my goal, I walk the Greenbelt, I'll walk a mile. And I'm going to really just focus on that. That's all I'm doing. Walking the Greenbelt, walking a mile. No more, no less. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself. You know what? What's a restaurant I've always wanted to try? I'm going to go to that restaurant. What's, fast food or something I really like? I'm going to go there. And I'm going to go. The whole point is going. It's getting outside of the house. One of the things is, when we're getting sober, we really become a victim mentality of bed rot, and you don't understand how hard it is, and we don't leave the house. And it is a fight. It's a lot of work to leave the house. And that's why you set just this one goal. Set a goal of, go do something that you've always kind of wanted to do that's very small, and start finding what you enjoy in life. And this is a process, man. This doesn't happen overnight and in a week. It doesn't fix and cure it. But when you start to find this habit, and you start to find getting out of the house, you'll notice that your brain does feel better. You notice that it subconsciously even, it relieves some of this internal dialogue, and it makes a huge difference. A lot of times people will be like, well, go to AA meetings and NA meetings and stuff. Those are great, but also you have to have more than life in life than that. AA meetings, NA meetings are cool because they do get you out of the house. I don't believe really in virtual meetings as much as I do in-person meetings, especially in the beginning of sobriety, because you need to get out of the house. But also, you don't want your life to revolve around that. I've met people at AA meetings and NA meetings that I'm like, hey, what do you do for fun? And they're like, well, I go to 3 meetings a day. Dude, you instantly identify no longer as an addict, but you identify as, I go to 3 meetings a day, or I go to 2 AA meetings a day. There has to be more to life than that, because now it's just a one-dimensional life. If you don't go to a meeting, what happens now? You start to freak out, because it's that addict mentality, that addict brain that really kicks back in, and it's a scary place. So one of the things I would say is, you've got to go out and you got to find some things that will help you some, of just giving you some relief. If you don't want to go to meetings and you don't want to stay in the house, you don't know what to do, man, go to Denny's. The one thing is Denny's, Waffle House, IHOP, these are open 24 hours. So if it's 2 a.m, man, if you go there and you see Barbara, whoever the server is that night, and just be honest with me, like, dude, I'm going through withdrawals. I'm trying to get sober from this. I don't want to be home anymore, so I'm here. Is it, and just strike up a conversation, vent, unload a little bit. Trust me, you'd be surprised at like 1, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. These places are kind of busy. You can scroll and play on your phone. You don't have to interact and mingle with anybody. And letting somebody know kind of that you're struggling, human nature usually kicks in, and you actually get some kind people. And again, there are exceptions to the case, okay? But man, having this and just getting out of the house and having this outside life is what starts to really help, because building dopamine back and these receptors back is a process. And eventually you do find certain things that you really enjoy, you really like. And next thing you know, like, hey, let's try it again. Let's do this again. Let's see if it was as much fun as I thought it was. Because the hardest part is overcoming these mental cravings, these mental urges, and understanding all these different triggers that we have. I hate the word trigger, but it's really true, where, we see something and it gives us that whole, oh, I want to use, or we get in our car or wherever we use that and we're like, oh, I want to use. And it's just this conversation of our head remembering and having flashbacks of all these times when this substance was not hurting us per se, because we don't remember the whole thing, and trying to convince us back to using it. And that's the brutal side of cocaine withdrawal, or even a stimulant withdrawal, that they don't tell you about. Is it's not this physical withdrawal. It is so much of a mental withdrawal. You feel so alone in your head. So it's so hard to understand and to wade through all these thoughts. It's very overwhelming, this conversation that you have. And so to be able to break free, to stimulate your brain, to stimulate your eyesight, being in a different environment, it instantly triggers kind of that fight or flight response and cortisol response. So your brain is now hyper fixated on what's around us. I don't know this area. Versus you're in your normal house, man, with the door shut, locked in the room, not using, but going the whole entire time. Dude, I wish I had a bag. And that's a scary, scary place. But you do get sober. And this is why I share, is because for me, a lot of times I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I just kind of fought through it. And that's not how it has to be. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and follow button, comment down below. I share a lot on these different types of subjects just because I like to help anybody who's going through this. It's a scary place to be. When it comes to getting sober, remember there is no right or wrong way of getting sober. It is your way of getting sober. And that's whether you go to rehab, inpatient treatment, or outpatient treatment. Download Sunflower Sober. I got that down below. It's an app on iOS and Google Play. You have 24-hour AI sponsor support. There's a community there. There's journaling. There's coping skills. There's therapists. There's read sections and education sections. I mean, there's a lot there to help you get sober. You go to an AA meeting, any meeting, and an Al-Anon meeting too. Go to meetings and get into that environment some still to start understanding the addiction and then to build friendships outside. When it comes to, finding a doctor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, getting on the right meds, a lot of times we're coping for trauma or we're coping for other things and healing a lot of what draws us into our addiction. And that's what it's about. For the one that's fighting through every single day, I am proud of you. Don't give up. It does get better. You're worth it.